Hey, I'm Dan Qualls. I'm the head of campus here at the University of Maine at Machias. I've met a few of you. And today we have a town hall for the students with our president, Joan Mundy. So it's really, we don't really have an agenda. We're just here to talk about really anything you guys want to talk about. So
sure, if maybe it would be helpful if you'd introduce yourselves. I'd like to know who's here and where you're from and kind of what you're thinking about, how's the semester going, that sort of thing, as well as any ideas you have for us for how we can make it even better. I want to congratulate you also. You're here. You've almost gotten through a pandemic. You've managed to keep going to your university and to keep moving forward. So very low-key agenda here, and I can answer questions and Dan can answer questions. And if neither of us knows the answer, we'll find them. So would you at least like to introduce yourself?
Hi, my name is Julian Bateman.
Your name is what?
Julian Bateman.
Okay.
Yep, I'm from Franklin, Maine. My major here is creative arts, and I'm in the 4+1 undergrad intermediate at Oregon.
Oh, good. Good. Okay. And how about you?
I'm Cindy Del Croce. I'm a freshman studying in bio.
And where are you from?
I'm from Massachusetts, but I'm in Southern Maine.
Great. Good. Yes.
I'm Tristan Gibas. I'm also a freshman. I'm from Cleveland, Massachusetts, and I'm in the creative arts program.
All righty, good. And you?
Afternoon, my name is Julian Bateman. I am a sophomore here at UMM under the marine biology program. I grew up and lived in Brooklyn, New York City.
Good to see you. I think we've met, haven't we? The Brooklyn, New York thing.
Yeah, like last fall semester.
Rang a bell.
You had a chance to meet.
Yes, yes. Yeah, well, good to see you. Glad you're still here. Good. And yes.
My name is Jeanette Harrison. I'm a sophomore, and my major is marine bio. I'm originally from Dexter, Maine.
Okay, great. Good. Well, thank you. And as Dan said, I'm Joan Mundy. I'm the president of the University of Maine and the University of Maine at Machias. And Dr. Qualls is your head of campus. So he's the person who's here day to day. So how are things? Is it going okay?
First semester is going great, strong. A lot of our classes are both in person as well as like online on Zoom, which works for a lot of us. And the support between like our peers and our professors are also like professional, but also helpful. So in all, I'm very much liking how this semester is going for me personally.
That's good. Questions or things that I should know about?
Questions on, so there's been a lot of statements of how the fall semester is going to turn out.
Yeah.
With more vaccines being distributed, especially to our age range, about tomorrow, basically, 16 up. Set for that. I'm guessing, so are we going to be pushing more towards in-person classes, or will we be still having in-person, hybrid, and online classes?
So I'll give my version of the answer and then Dan can tell you, but our hope for the whole system is to be back as much in person as we possibly can. You know, our campuses are residential. They depend a lot on the community of the campus itself being vibrant and being here. And, you know, when we're in a mode like we've been in, it's hard. Not everybody's around and people are figuring out how to manage, but you can't always access everybody you might like too quickly. So the idea is to be back, but we've learned a lot through the pandemic. We've learned about some things that we can do remotely pretty well. And we know that there are some students who will want to be at a distance, students who might not otherwise choose UMaine Machias, but if they know that there are a few courses they can take either through here or through UMaine at a distance, then they may continue with that. So the basic plan is to be as close to sort of the pre-times as we can with some nice enhancements, with some hybrids. Does that sort of square with where your plans are?
It does, and several of our programs were hybrid before the pandemic. So business, psychology and community studies, special education, like we've had a pretty strong online and on campus in those programs. The students have a choice. So that'll be the same. And I believe it's our science faculty that are really trying to make accommodations for the labs, so we can have the labs here. But depending on the guidance from the governor, we may be able to have more than 6 students in a lab, but we'll just have to wait and see. But I believe were any of you guys in a lab this year?
Yes.
Did they have it where they were back to back in 2 different rooms? So I don't know how that worked for you guys, but that's the worst case scenario, is that we still do that where we have was there a TA and how did the instructor do that?
Well, I'll give an example. Chemistry class, that one, we have 2 chemistries, strength and organics. And our professors, Dr. Mann and Dr. Rado, both of our chemistry teachers, handle the 2 sides of, well, having enough it's safe of students in the classroom, as well as the work on there. And that's a good picture of what the room is.
That's kind of how I was picturing it. So,
Yeah.
so it may be like that again. It may be like that again next year. But our science faculty, as you know, because I think 3 of you were, maybe 4 of you were marine bio. They're all about hands-on, in person, and so you're going to see that in the fall.
Right. And so for those on the YouTube, if you couldn't hear the answer here, the question here
Oh, yeah.
was in the chemistry course, both professors were helping and making sure that students could get lab access, I think, as Dan described. So that's good. Other thoughts or comments on how it's gone or how you wish it had gone, or yes?
I have a few questions, and one of them is, I know some students are concerned about the partnership with Orno
Mhm.
because we're afraid of us losing our heritage. And there's been some stuff that has made students questioning if we're going to lose that.
Sure. Well, it's a great question and I appreciate it. So the question for those on the YouTube is concern about the partnership with the University of Maine and whether part of the heritage of the University of Maine at Machias could be lost. Students are sharing concerns about that, and I would assume kind of related issues. It's a great question. And so some of you maybe know more about the history of this than others. I'll just say quickly that in 2016, so long before any of us were here at this campus, the Board of Trustees was watching the trends for the University of Maine at Machias. The University of Maine system, which is the grouping of all of the universities, has very clear legislation from the state that says there will be 7 universities. So there's no danger of the University of Maine at Machias not being one of those 7. So that's the first thing to remember, protected by statute. But the enrollments were not where they needed to be. And that was causing concern for the Board of Trustees. It was causing some concerns about the accreditation, the accreditation ability of this university. And so they made what I actually think, and I came into this was all in place when I got here, a pretty interesting proposal, which would be that there would be what was called a primary partnership between the University of Maine at Machias and UMaine. Think about it, the smallest, in many ways, one of the most interesting campuses in this system, partnering with the biggest, with the flagship, with the big research university. I thought it was kind of an interesting idea. In fact, it's partly what attracted me to this presidency, was that there would be, in particular, this campus, the coastal campus, the unique regional campus that in particular serves Washington County, but of course the whole state and beyond, and is a major resource for the community here. So in a lot of my early visits here, I was trying to figure out what's so special about, everybody loves Machias. What is it? And it's this heritage that you point to. It is a long tradition, for example, of offering degrees that are meant to serve Washington County. The college got started because local business leaders were worried that there weren't enough teachers for K through 12 children in this area. And so back in late 1800s, 1890 something, maybe even later, They went to Augusta, they went to the governor and they said, we need a school in this part of the state that will prepare the teachers who will educate our communities. And over the years, the focus has shifted. So several of you are marine science majors. That's because this is just like, what better area could you imagine than to study marine science on the coast? So that has been characteristic of the place. And at least as long as I'm here as the president of both, even though we are in a partnership and we're going to have to figure out what that looks like so that it benefits everybody, the special features of UMaine Machias have to stay central. And I think it's helpful for the students to be in those discussions because you can talk about what it is that makes the place special for you. Make sure that then the people who are on these different committees and task groups are well aware. And one thing that I've observed is there's a sense of community here that is really quite important and unique. You don't have quite the same thing at Orono. It's just we're way bigger there. But here, and particularly in non-pandemic times, if you need to have some help, if you need to talk to somebody, they're right there. They're right across the hall. They're right down the street. And that's been important. So I understand the concern, but I think a lot of people are really attentive to not letting that happen. And, if I put you on the spot a little, or any of you, to tell me what are some of these pieces of the heritage or the traditions that you really feel we've got to make sure not to lose?
Before I forget, can I say my last two questions?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, of course.
So something I remember last time when a good amount of people from UMO came here was how we talk a lot about how Kilburn has been like not helping or responding to students with allergies, and nothing's really changed and it's gone worse.
Okay, so I'm going to turn to Dan because I remember that discussion, of course, and we immediately took some action and called some folks. So the question was about Kilburn and concerns of students with allergies, with food allergies, and the observation that it hasn't gotten better.
Yeah, and I had heard from the Dean of Students, Marty Kaler, that at the beginning of the semester that it had gotten better. Is that not? She said that students were reporting that things had improved. And then over time, maybe not so much. I'll double check with Marnie on that one, but what she reported back was at the beginning of the semester that Sodexo really reached out and had a lot of focus groups and tried to do as much as some of you guys are nodding. So I don't know. I didn't take part of the focus groups, but go ahead.
One of the person with lots of allergies, I would say it's gotten a lot better allergen-wise, but then now I feel like it's lacking in options. It's very repetitive, the same thing, so I'm finding a hard time. Now it's my allergies, but it's the same thing in not generally.
Right.
Okay, so we should repeat this so that the people online can hear. So the questions have been about whether we've seen responsiveness from Sodexo on the allergy matter, and we're hearing maybe some positives there, that it looks a little better, but concerns about the sameness and repetition in the menu. Yeah.
And see, that's when I'd heard that things had gotten better, but then Marnie said, well, now we're back to maybe not so. I immediately thought it's got to be that repetition in the limited, it's got to be the limited variety, because one of the things that I thought before the pandemic that I thought was like a strength of Kilburn Commons was the variety, because you had all these different stations, right? Let me see, 1, 2, 3, 4, at least 4 or 5 different stations. And so now in the pandemic, I'm thinking you've got one station. Yeah. So
oh really? Oh, so it's reduced. Yeah.
I'll take that. I'll take that back to Marnie. And I know you guys have too, but it'll be good if I can talk. I have a meeting with her tomorrow, so I'll put that on the agenda.
And do you have another question?
Yes, I do. Ever since last semester, when UMO started being a part of the financial aid, it's gone very, I would say, dysfunctional, because I at first, at the beginning of the semester, was in the fall, was supposed to have work study, and then it apparently got taken away because I had so much whatever. And I know some other students have been having similar issues, and at the end of last semester, I didn't get my financial aid sorted out until like the very last.
Oh. So that's been a concern for several months now. Long, involved story, which I can tell you all of if you want, but I can tell you part of it in any case. Because the University of Maine at Machias is considered a regional campus of the University of Maine since that board action 5 years ago, that means a lot of things for the institution change, including its accreditation, which is now within the University of Maine's accreditation, and then its relationship with the U.S. Department of Education, which is where that financial aid direction comes from. So the U.S. Department of Education sort of caught up last year in keeping track of all the changes it needed to make, and that's when the worst of this financial aid situation hit us, because we weren't prepared for the change to have to happen as quickly as the U.S. Department of Education wanted it to happen, in part as the last administration came to a close. They were, trying to take care of things. So we were very, very worried. We spent a lot of hours on phones with lawyers and officials in the federal government, worried about what would happen here. And I think everyone did their very best to avoid the kind of unfortunate situation that you describe. So if you are still having a problem, and we don't think we're done with this yet, but we think we at least kind of got it a little more stabilized, I would urge you to just draft a quick email to me and then make sure that we put you in touch with someone who can solve it. And Dan,
Yep.
I'm sure can do the same, because we know what it had to be then was almost case by case, the way that we had to work through this. And that will get smoother with time, but that doesn't help the people who are in the middle of it right now. So
I would like to add, though, that it wasn't this wasn't something that the University of Maine did.
that's
This
right.
was in August, and I saw this happening. This unfolded in front of me through emails that I was included in on from the Department of Education, and I was reading those emails thinking, oh, wow, how are we going to do this? Our UMaine system attorneys were trying to get an extension, trying to get an appeal, and the Department of Education was just flat out, nope, 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 nope. So we all, the UMaine system, the University of Maine, we were all blindsided by this financial aid crisis is what it was. And the president's right. People worked long hours on that, and it clearly was not enough, but holy smokes, that right in August to get that email from the Department of Education, me personally, I thought, well, that's it. We're done for. But
well, and I thought, well, surely we can talk them into slowing this down. We can, but they were very terse. Yeah. So, but that doesn't help an individual,
right.
To hear all that, I guess. So please do write me a note, explain exactly what happened, and we'll put our best people on to trying to resolve, which is all that we can do at this point. Okay.
And people who have come to me personally with these exact same issues, we've gotten those issues straightened out in just a couple of days. So please, if you feel comfortable, my email is on the webpage, daniel.qualls@maine.edu. We'll sort it out.
Other points that this is really helpful. So keep your concerns coming. We have a new participant here. Hello. So we're all it's just very informal. People are raising issues or telling me things I need to know. I'm still interested in how it's going for everybody. We've heard from a couple. Yes.
Chances of the campus getting new aids. There are a lot of people have issues with that,
Yeah.
especially with college hill.
Yes.
And that's in trouble in the past with getting down it. I know that a friend of ours actually lost one of her tires.
Oh no. Oh my goodness. Yeah. So maintenance and repair is always a challenge in this particular state and in this particular public higher ed system. Dan would know more precisely.
We actually have money. Yeah,
Yeah.
we actually have
some
funds.
bond money.
We have bond monies to actually fix that. And when you have to put out a bid so the contractors can place a bid on nobody, last time we put out a bid, nobody put a bid on it. So we have the money, we have the need, but we don't have the folks to do it. But we do, it's still on our to-do list because it's ragged. I mean, there's lots of places. I don't think it's so much a Humane Machias issue, roads in Maine, because I've seen roads in similar disrepair across the state. But that's got to be an award-winning strip of road there. It's really falling apart.
Yeah, and certainly before next winter when we're back up and running. I mean, with reduced numbers of people here, even it's not good, but obviously it's on the list.
It is, yeah.
Yeah. Yes.
Yep, I was just wondering about if there's gonna be any idea about music here on campus. I know that we have a professor here named Dean
Mhm.
Well,
Yes.
yeah. And I know that he was like a huge music person
Mhm.
on this campus, and like if you wanted to learn flute, tuba,
Yeah.
anything, you go to him, and other professors as well. But I'm just wondering if in the future, is there going to be any other music professor
Mhm.
here that's going to be either coming back and then helping with that? Because I feel like as an art major, who I can't play music to save the life of me, but just for like the future, for people to come in,
It's a good
like,
question. Sure.
for a credit, like, hey, I want to learn the piano. Like,
Yep.
is there going to be someone here that's like, I could do that?
Sure. So the question for those on the YouTube, if you didn't hear it, it's about music. And we have a music professor leaving, and what's the future look like for music here on the campus? And again, I'll turn to the head of campus.
We still have adjuncts who teach music classes. They're teaching 2 this semester, and they're going to teach in the fall. And we still have Alan Kryzak, who teaches not the same kind of music that Jean did, but so we still have music on campus. The issue is we don't have a music program on campus. And we haven't had a music program on campus. We had an interdisciplinary fine arts program, which I think you might have been part of, right, Berlin?
Yeah, and I switched over to.
Right. So when they took that creative arts program, what they took it from was 2 other programs, the creative writing and book arts program and the interdisciplinary fine arts, and they kind of made a new program, creative arts. So that's when the music concentration was removed, and I think that was 2 years ago. So we don't have like a music. I think we have a minor. We have a music minor, but it only has a couple students in it. So with those low numbers, it's hard to justify a position if you only have 2 students.
But here's a bright side to this.
There is, yeah.
Which is not only the partnership with Orono, although I could use that as part of the answer, but the other thing, and when the chancellor visits in a couple of weeks, I hope you'll all come back and share these concerns and talk to him too. But he's going to talk about unified accreditation. So that's another whole thing. So take our partnership, which was established in 2016, and kind of hold that to the side for a moment. What this new Chancellor Dan Malloy, has done is to work with all of us to actually figure out what it means to be a system. So there are 7 campuses across this university. Think, for example, of UMaine Augusta, which I'm told has a very interesting, it may be jazz-focused music set of offerings. And UMaine has kind of a traditional large university set of offerings, and other campuses have what they have. But what Chancellor Malloy wants us to do, and he's actually put a timeline on this, so people are at it now, is to have a common catalog so that if you are here at Machias, but you really see that there's a course in flute that someone's offering somewhere in Augusta, there's a way for you to actually enroll in that. Ideally, of course, if it's virtual, that's even better. But we want to make it really easy for students who are based on one campus to choose a course from any place in the system, to think of that as your whole catalog. Now, there's a lot to work out with that, right? You'd need to, your base would be Machias, so you'd need to take a certain amount of courses through here, but maybe not even eventually as this becomes more and more fluid. We expect to have that with UMaine even sooner because we're partners in a sense. It's not there yet. And so as changes get made here for lots of reasons, we're always thinking about how can we still make sure we serve students? How can we still make sure there are options? So that doesn't help tomorrow. But I do think into the future, it also may be very attractive for students to come to UMaine Machias, to know that they can be based here, have the advantage of this small campus, this beautiful location, this very focused experiential learning kind of place, but choose from courses across the entire system and have that be easy. It is not easy now. Has anybody actually tried to take a course on another campus and have it count? How did that go? Did it work?
I'm currently taking a class for web applications at Augusta. It's going great at the moment.
Yeah.
And I'm taking classes at Warno virtually.
Well, good to hear. So no problems in kind of transferring them in or whatever.
No, it's just like technical problems with like just making sure that just sending in the right item to certain professors. At the
I see.
right
Okay,
time.
well,
That's
this
the
is
only thing. Really, it's just like just
Good.
working around Google Drive.
very positive, very
Word.
good to hear. Okay, so for the YouTube people, we did hear an example where it is working out for a student to take a couple of courses separately. But once you think of that whole catalog as being what's available to you, it will open up some options, I think.
One that I get asked in the education program, I have a lot of students that would like to take a minor at University of Maine. They're very, I have a lot of students that are interested in the Native American Studies minor. And it would be really cool for our teachers to be able to get that minor. And we're hoping that that's just around the corner. Did you guys think of some examples of what makes University of Maine at Machias special, or what makes it, what's part of its heritage? Yes, Berlin.
Yeah, so the reason why I came here, one, it was close by to my family,
Yeah.
and it was a small campus.
I'm
I
going to
came
take
from-
notes on these. Okay.
I came from a small town, so
Yeah.
I was going to go to a community college or Orono, but
Mhm.
either one I wasn't very familiar with, like I did with
Yep.
big city or a big campus like one.
Yep.
So going here was something along with the fact that I could talk to my professors and
Yeah.
I'd have a one-to-one conversation.
Right.
And they actually helped me with my studies, so I can make sure that I'm on the same page or the same idea
Yeah.
that they're presenting. And it's granted me more studio space. This semester alone, I've been using the PAC here for my internship.
Oh.
The class I had was in Bowman for photography.
Mhm.
So I've been building sets here for students.
Really?
Taking pictures. So that studio space is something I appreciate. I mostly have used the Powers building as a studio. I've used the room on 208 and 209 for most of my meetings. And it just kind of explored, it helped me explore with what I want to do with my work.
So that's really interesting. You can access so much of the place, the people, the spaces, yeah.
Especially for a campus that I've seen is mostly seen as a marine bio focus or education.
Yeah, there's
focus.
more,
It's kind of like interesting how, no, the arts can be here.
I would say though, Bernie Benzani and Mark Sabrizi, they're working on doing a lot upstairs. And one of their ideas that we're going to put in place is, I keep the numbers mixed up too, but the one on this side, they want it to be card swipe access for students who are enrolled in a studio class, can go and work on their whatever. I think painting is usually what it's used for, on the weekends or after hours. And so there's a lot. Marcus has a lot of ideas for this building, and so a lot of them are going to come to fruition pretty soon.
You know, he stopped me this morning after a session with faculty because I talked about a big new grant that we have from the Harold Alfond Foundation for the entire system, which will benefit every campus as it rolls out. But in particular, there will be some new buildings, especially for athletics at UMaine. It's a longstanding interest of this donor, is Division I athletics at UMaine. So that's kind of specific. But Marcus, always creative, of course, came up and said, so have you thought about having art and visual arts people be a part of the design of the new buildings, and students to be able to be engaged in thinking about what those spaces will be and how they will look? And I thought that was a fabulous idea. And it would be, you know, it could be students from here, but helping the whole system think about space. So again, I see a pretty bright future here, but knowing more about what's special is really important. So anybody else have thoughts on that? Yep.
Think a lot more about it. Like our skills doing well on the first week of classes here.
Did you guys see any? Did you guys see any whales this? I thought Gail Krause said that there was all kinds of whales, like on one, were you on that one?
Yeah, we saw.
What did you see? She listed a bunch.
We saw humpbacks, minky, don't know what the other ones are.
Humpback, minky.
Wow.
She-
So
she-
you two were hearing the list of the whales that,
She was afraid that people would think that that's what you would see every single time. Because it was such a diverse,
they were,
yeah,
they were the,
yeah,
they
it was
were
a
the
good, it was a
paid
good trip.
whales to come through. Yeah, no.
Whale parade.
It wasn't just the whales as well. We got to see a couple of seals, arbor and gray seals. Even saw like a little up on the rocks.
Oh,
This is amazing.
Like 3 or 4 bald eagles.
Did you
well, if you
really?
just stand still, you can see a bald eagle, right?
Yeah.
We went off of Quebec, so the bald eagle was.
Not Graham and Ann, you guys didn't go that far out, did you?
But yes, it was very lifelike, which again, that's what a lot of the students enjoy, other than the whale watching and hands-on learning, being on the beaches and whether it be taking different sediment samples as well as like data on the mud flats. It was a lot of fun.
I thought you meant going out on the beach just for like on the weekends to check it out, but you meant in class, right?
Oh, I mean, so
You meant in class.
a lot of like the on-field trips that we've gone on. I just remember, and you go back to whether it was the club, the beach, or even some of the mud flats here in the Tri-State as well.
Actually, Dan, you had a good story
I
about
did.
Jasper Beach. Why don't you tell them? I mean, this is kind of
So
just emblematic of the
on
place.
Saturday, and I don't know if you guys work in admissions. I know there's some. So on Saturday, there was a prospective student from New Hampshire. Were you here for that? So he was looking for the O'Brien. Him and his dad were looking for the O'Brien House, and I think he's interested in the rec program. And so Megan Duff said the O'Brien House is over there, and have a good tour. And so then we took our 2 boys to Jasper Beach, and as we were leaving, the prospective student and his dad were walking on to Jasper Beach. So it's like, that's really a small town, right? You bump into somebody on campus and you bump into them, 15 minutes away at the beach. That's to me, that's part of the charm of Giants.
So we have to watch to see if we get that student.
I'd like to, I wish I got his name. I'll check with admissions to
Yeah,
see if
I'll
we.
tell you. So I'm hearing a lot. I'm hearing about what's possible to see and do and experience here, the ways in which people work together, the ways in which we can, use the campus and use what we have. Small classes, I'm assuming, are really special and important. The overall size. How about one thing that I am interested in, because I keep hearing this, how important this university is to the town of Machias and to Washington County in general. Are any of you in situations where you've had much interaction with the community, with the nonprofit organizations that are here, with other ways of intersecting with Machias? Yeah.
We've had one, albeit it was slightly unintentional. Like last semester, we had a trunk or treat.
Uh-huh.
So it was originally supposed to be for like the students at Machias.
Yeah.
But it was opened up to the community.
Mhm.
So we had a bunch of like community members bringing like their kids.
Oh, yeah?
their costumes, and then different like organizations and like clubs on campus would give it a distribute candy.
Lovely.
I'm not really thinking of other.
Yeah, but that's a good example,
What about the Salmon Federation? You don't work with those guys?
Might be. I'm not entirely sure yet, but I might be for my social media project. That's all.
What was it?
With
Dan?
the Salmon Federation, Dwayne Shaw?
Oh, yes, I
Yeah.
visited there. Yeah, that's a fascinating place.
Sure yet.
Or DEI? Have you guys gone to DEI?
I've taken a trip there.
Okay.
Sort of.
There'll be more of both of those. If you're a marine bio student, both of those two, Down East Institute and the Salmon Federation, they have really close relationships with the marine bio program.
And lots of great hands-on activity there.
And both of them formed by UMM alum. Dwayne Shaw and Brian Beal.
Yeah. How about up there? Anything that you'd like to talk about? Okay, that's good. Welcome anyway. Let me just, I keep checking to see, I'm watching the questions coming in from the live stream, if there are any.
John says no.
I do have one question about security on campus that recurring, but because are we having an integrated budget with the University of Massachusetts and the University of Maryland? So with that integrated budget, would we be able to have like either hire like a 24-hour safety officer on campus?
So I can, if you want, I can get them.
Go ahead.
So we had, a couple of years ago, we had a safety officer that was not 24 hours. He was just here in the evenings, I think five, maybe 6 days a week. And when he resigned, we tried a couple different options that did not work out. And one that I'm really trying to work through that I really like is where we share a resource officer with the town of Machias and AOS 96. So we have a police officer basically who is assigned to the University of Machias and AOS 96, specifically Machias Memorial High School and Rosamond Gap Elementary, just for the morning traffic. And then they spend the rest of the day here on our campus as a resource officer that also does programming and things like that. The problem that what I've bumped into is just trying to figure out the right words with human resources and procurement to make that happen. Because the town and AOS 96 and UMM Machias, we're excited about that. It's just trying to translate that through the system is what's bogging me down. While we've been working on that, the Dean of Students has a proposal that we have a student intern do the safety, especially somebody who's in the con law program. And that way, that person would get a lot of experience as they go into a career in that area. But also, we have somebody who helps with the safety on campus. So we have a few things that we're working on. It's just it's hard to get traction on some of those. But with the president in the room, we might be able to get some traction on that one.
Listen, I'm in favor of forward motion on that. You know, there are lots of examples, not yet in that space, but we'll work on this, where I think we've been able to turn to UMaine experts for help, particularly in the facilities area in general. And I know that some pool repair that was getting done here, right? A UMaine crew of electricians, I'm told, came down from Orono to help with that. And so, yeah, it expands the reach. It really does. It gives all of those sorts of capacities, in a way, it gives Machias access to them. And we're careful and we work it out case by case, but we'll see more of it.
Can we back up to the first part of your question was about the budget? And
Yes.
It's not, the way that our budget is being folded in the University of Maine, it's not like how you might think. And
Yeah.
Joan, you did a great job of explaining that to the faculty. If you don't mind.
Sure. Yeah, let me try again. So as part of this partnership with the Board of Trustees laid out expectations. And when I got here, one of them was the budgets will have been, I don't have the precise language, consolidated perhaps, merged was sort of the idea, but by some year. Andy Egan, the previous head of the campus, I think had a very wise view, which was, you know what, we're not going to do that too soon. We want to be sure that we on this campus understand our budget. And the budgets in the system are pretty straightforward. The revenues are essentially tuition and state appropriation. And the expenses are essentially personnel with some other costs. And so Andy Egan was clear that we needed on this campus to understand that budget. And so we delayed a year or maybe two in doing what the board had asked us, which was to put them together. But the person who's the chief business officer for UMaine also is the chief business officer for Machias. That's been in place for a couple of years. And so essentially it is presented to the board as a single budget, But the way it's actually managed is as two budgets. So we still know exactly what the Machias revenues and expenses are. We know the Orono side of that. And we also now are starting to track when, in many cases, Orono has staff and personnel that are also partially assigned to Machias. And we're seeing more of that. But Machias will still be separate. Student financial aid dollars that come from the U.S. Department of Ed under this new OPEID arrangement, those will be designated at whatever the Machias share is, and Machias will get all of that back. So there isn't any sort of, there isn't real mixing of the dollars. But the accounting is all done uniformly in one place now. So, we think it's a help, actually. It will give us a little more big picture. Yeah, good question.
John, what do you got?
On the chat, Mary Mobile writes, I work at the gym and I hear a lot of people loving that we have a fitness center because it's the closest one. It's great for the community to have a gym. The closest gym that isn't in campus one is an hour away. So comments about, I guess, the gym.
So the gym has kind of shifted with the student union being at the gym now. And so David Invergo has taken on a lot of responsibility of managing a lot of the activities and functions of the fitness center. And the missing link is the pool. And like the president said, we had 4 electricians come here from the University of Maine, and they were here for a day, and they did so much. I think they installed some lights in bathrooms is that right? Yeah. Same day. So they came in and fixed one of our main issues with our pools with a pump. But we still have a couple of valve issues, and so we're hoping to have May 1st as our target date for reopening the pool. But the fitness center is now open. They were just saying that was an asset. Yeah. Okay.
So here's another question. Other than COVID-19, do you think the decrease in attendance enrollment is as a result of the sports programs being suspended? I'll turn to Dan in a minute, but one thing that I just love to look at data, and I spend a lot of time doing that. And so in preparation for this visit, you know, the enrollment starting to come down, that's about an 11-year trend. And with no blips, you know, it's been gradual. And I think that I was telling Dan that, you know, we're a little bit up in matriculations over this time last year for fall of 21, which is a really good sign. And we've got a lot of focus on helping students stay. You know, once people get here, we want to retain them, and we have some work to do there. But I'm aiming that our big turnaround year is going to be the 22-23 year, the class that comes in the fall of 22, because everything is starting to line up with great help from enrollment, great energy on the campus. Just the stories that you told, I wish we had taped you, right? I mean, taped, that's old fashioned. Wish we had videoed you, right? Or some other way to say it. But the point is, you know, you're going to be the advertisements for bringing in more students. So I think, I do not think it is the case that the change in athletics is the reason, but Dan will speak to it. It's a trend nationally in small rural campuses. The numbers are just going down. There aren't that many people. And so we see it, which means Machias has to make its case for its specialness. And I think that we're getting close. But Dan?
The issue with, there's a couple of issues with athletics. One is from the perspective of the athletes. So I met with athletes quite a bit about their unhappiness or their disappointment with the facilities, with their expectations. And I used to think, and I was wrong, I used to think that our retention with athletes was because maybe they were not here for academics, they were just here for athletics. Now, I was wrong. The reason why we were not retaining athletes, and we were not, some of our teams, we only retained like 20%, 20, 23, 24%, which is really low, and I'll get to that in a minute. It's not because they didn't have their hearts in the right place. It's because they signed up to play college athletics with this certain expectation, and then when they experienced our facilities as being substandard, they went somewhere else. Like it was not, we did not do them justice for their expectations. With the retention piece, I had a captain and a co-captain of the basketball team come and meet with me and say they were so frustrated that every year they got 15 new basketball players, and it was just, they were the only two constants. Every year, 15 new. And so that retention rate was demoralizing to them, and they stayed and they both graduated. But that's two out of how many over 4 years? So the plan, athletics is not gone. The plan is in 2 years, because we're through 1 year. In 2 years, we're going to reassess and see what we can bring back, what we have in place so that student athletes can have a quality experience. It will not be all 6 of our teams. It'll probably just be, one men and women's team. And it might be soccer, it might be basketball. At this point, I don't know. We'll see when we get there what the interest is. But the president is right. Our decline in enrollment was way before athletics was suspended. I'm sure it didn't help, but the trend was already there.
But again, I just want to emphasize, just speaking with the 5 of you who've spoken up, you all are going to be the future of this university, right? You're going to be able to talk about the incredible experience you're having, the great education you are getting. I mean, one thing that doesn't waver is the quality. We know that it's strong. You're going to leave here well prepared for whatever you choose to do next. And that's going to be how we continue to sell Machias. We'd like to get the numbers up for sure, but it's not going to happen overnight. And I think we have to be very specific about where we recruit. So people who come from out of state, we want to go back to those high schools and make sure that we are talking to the next classes of people who might join us. I'm going to introduce somebody who came in that I don't believe you've probably met. So, and we're getting close to time or maybe past time, but in the back is Jeff Mills, who is the president of the University of Maine Foundation, which is the fundraising organization for the University of Maine. And I think it's a really good sign that he's here, because that means we're having conversations about how we do that. Jeff, do you want to say anything, or you have to yell?
I'm glad to be here today. Just recently were able to work with some people that have been involved with university faculty to help with them doing a plan kit for the institution, and we're looking at other ways of doing more day-to-day fundraising as time goes on. Hopefully, it won't be the end-all be-all answer for issues of revenue, as it isn't usually at any campus. Most fundraising is over and above your regular routine that we try to bring excellence to an institution through help from donors and others, but we are looking at all of that. I would say that one thing that I think is a great thing about this area, that I love coming to this area, is how close you are internationally to another country, and whether or not that is something that people have the opportunity to go over. I know I love to go over to Camp Bello in that area, and down here. I think that's another nice thing that we have that is great. Somebody mentioned about the beaches, and to have such a beautiful state park. I have never been in a situation where more lovely roses and beach and all that we have in this area is love for us and other places. So I think it is a great place to be. I'm hoping that we will continue to look at ways that the state can serve. As you all know, the tide here is so incredible that there are potentials for us to look at that for more. As we look at marine sciences and also wind power, those type of things as time goes on. So I'm very hopeful that as time goes on, we will see more things that we can do for the university and also for the state to help. We can't do the fact that we will have another country so close by, another great experience that we have that a lot of places do not have. So, awesome.
Thank you, Jeff. Anybody have questions for Jeff? It's another whole profession to know about. People who go out and bring money to universities. It's great. All righty, then I think we're at, oh yes, another question, sure.
Thank you. My final question is, I noticed there isn't like many language opportunities here. at Machias,
Yep.
and I don't know what's the case with it. I just think like, I know this from my previous years, when I was first looking at colleges, Orono had a lot of language courses. And I feel like it would be really cool if like some of those languages were available here.
Yeah, the issue is we don't have a language program or minor or requirement. So then it's hard to have classes full of students in a variety of languages. But I will say, we have had a pretty successful Passamaquoddy language course taught by Nu'ualui that's a really interesting class. And then we still have Spanish in a rotation, and we've had Russian in the past and Chinese in the past. But it's the problem is that we don't have like a program to house the language in. But if we go back to what the president was saying with the partnership with UMM and even the unified accreditation, it'll be a lot easier to take those classes once we have that in place. Because we're so small, we can't have all the offerings that a larger institution could have. But Passamaquoddy, Russian, Spanish, French,
That's
am I
pretty
leaving one
good.
out? Italian, Latin, all those have been offered here in the last 10 years. So am I forgetting any roads?
There are big trade-offs for being a small,
Yep.
intimate, community-based, small class kind of focused place and being a big place like Orono. And I think the goal here is that the students of Machias, the faculty and the staff at Machias will have the benefits of both worlds. The choice can be to be here at a small place, but with some of the opportunities that come with a larger place. And so that's, I think when you are all experienced, professional, successful alums and you look back, you're going to see the next 5 years looking like some growth, some new opportunities, and building on all the good things that you're seeing here right now. So stick with us, stay in touch with Jeff. He'll probably be calling you up after you go out and get jobs. So thank you very, very much for your time today. Get in touch with me if there's anything. Get in touch with me with your situation to see if we can get that fixed. And I'll perhaps see some of you, I hope, when I'm back with the chancellor in a few weeks. Thank
Thanks,
you all.
guys.
Have a good afternoon.